Hey, it's Alex Rath from BoardGameCo, and today we are looking at the Reckoners Steelslayer, the expansion for the Reckoners, currently on Kickstarter, nearly $200,000 raised, 2,000 backers, 18 days to go, and shortly after this video, I will have a full review of the Reckoners base game going up, so if you're interested, by all means, check that out if you want to hear my full thoughts. Spoiler alert, I love the Reckoners. I thoroughly enjoy this game. It has been an absolute blast to play it. It is simultaneously light, and I do have complaints, I do have cons that take away from the experience a little bit, but at the end of the day, I thoroughly enjoy this game. I like pulling it out, I like playing it, I like rolling dice, I like containing the epics and doing all that. And with that, let's go into, I guess, the overall campaign here. So the Reckoners is basically a game. We'll start with the Reckoners first. We'll go to Steelslayer. The Reckoners is a game based on the books by Brandon Sanderson, in which a bunch of non-powerful people, the Reckoners, are taking on these epics, these powerful human beings who have powers, who are ultimately evil, because absolute power corrupts absolutely, and the whole idea of Superman, Batman, and all these people defending us is a myth, although Batman doesn't have powers, so maybe he's real. But the ones who have powers, they would all be evil. You know that. Just like the Reckoners, just like the plot of The Boys, the current hit Amazon TV show, and it is basically based on a comic, by the way. It was a comic first. In any case, the Reckoners takes you, and you are the Reckoners, and you are rolling dice to try to slowly contain the various epics while ultimately taking down Steelheart. You're going to do this by slowly researching all the epics' weaknesses, as well as Steelheart's weaknesses, and then slowly, once you've uncovered his weaknesses, you can then start damaging him and taking him out. You're doing this while managing to keep the population of the city. The population is going to start at 40, you want to make sure it stays up, because if the population gets reduced to 0 before you are able to kill Steelheart, you lose the game. Now, it's a typical cooperative game in the sense that you're going to roll dice, take actions, do good things, and then the game will do bad things, and you'll have to outpace the bad things that the game is doing in order to win the game. I really like the story arc that this game has going for it, in the sense that generally when we play this game, we find that you start off very like, oh hey, look, we're gonna do stuff, then you slowly start getting squashed by the epics, by Steelheart, and you start losing hope, and then sometimes you actually lose hope, and other times you manage to recover, you manage to persevere, you build up enough equipment that you can outpace your opponents, and that's basically it. It has a Yahtzee style mechanism going on, in the sense that you roll dice 3 times, and then each time you have to allocate some dice, but then you can re-roll the others, and you keep going until you have all your dice prepped. To me, a big part of the fun of the game is the equipment and the player powers that let you adjust or pivot on the game state so that you can basically get the win. And that is basically Reckoners. The Steelheart is an expansion that's going to add a bunch of modules to the game. It's going to add, let's go down here, which shows you the various modules it adds. If we scroll down, what's new? Here we go. So first of all, we have new Reckoners. The base game gave you, I believe it was 6 Reckoners, if I'm not mistaken. This gives us 4 new Reckoners, so we can start choosing from different Reckoners. Instead of, now if you have a 6-player game, you can actually mix it up, and if you have a 4-player game, a 3-player game, or a 2-player game, plays well with 2, 3, and 4 players. I have not played it with 5 and 6, but if you, in any of those player counts, you have more options on the table now. Now, I will say one of my cons, I don't know if I mentioned this in my review actually, but one of my cons is the individual players are not as distinguished as I would like, at least in the base game. The Reckoners they just basically have a unique piece of gear that distinguishes them, not as much as I would like. I'd rather have more going on for them, but either way, I'll still take it. They do have a unique ability, if nothing else. Then from there, the second module is new equipment, bringing more equipment to the table, which for me is a huge plus, because the equipment is my favorite part of the game, and as much fun as the equipment is in the base game, the more you play it, it does get stale to a certain extent. You get to a point where you know all the basics. You know this one's going to give you an extra die, that was going to let you turn this symbol into 2 of that symbol, and it gets pretty familiar after a point. So new equipment is welcome. I'm very excited for that. From there, we have new epics. Okay, we're going to introduce a bunch of new epics, 31 remastered and 7 new epics. This one to me is kind of I'm intrigued to see where that's going to go, because I don't really know I haven't really looked, meaning I don't know what they're doing in terms of remastering those epics or adjusting them. They've made some slight modifications, but ultimately to me, the epics, there already is a pretty hefty amount of epics in the base game, and they don't feel different enough to me anyways. That's me personally. It could be others really feel they're different. Ultimately, and this is one of my big cons in the game that I do mention in the review, where a lot of things, as much as I enjoy the game, a lot of things in this game are abstracted, and a big part of that is the epics. It's basically, the epics have a little row of abilities they're going to be triggering, but they're just kind of symbols, and so the fact that you have a slightly different configuration of new symbols doesn't really excite me personally, but I am intrigued to see what they're doing in terms of the remastering, so who knows. Again, I'll take it, but it does not excite me. Then for Module 4 is Boss Epics and Cities, and that one I am very intrigued by, because they're adding 2 new epics in terms of replacing Steelheart, as well as the fact that they're adding cities. They're giving these different feel to the cities. They're changing up what was previously just a static city. Every city in the base game is basically the exact same. It doesn't matter at all. It's just a location for the sake of having a location. This one actually shifts it up, giving them each unique aspects to the game, as well as adding a change to the way the game plays. So it's giving you a decent amount of content, but is it giving you enough content to be worth the, fairly decent $59 Steelslayer base edition pledge? Which is a good time to talk about the pledge levels. So what do we have here in this game? So to begin with, we have the Steelslayer base edition, which is basically the, expansion. It's a $59 expansion, plus I believe it was $10 shipping. Let's see if we could find that over here. And it's going to be, obviously, it's going to be dependent on whether you're US, or international or wherever. But the Steelslayer base North America Zone 1 is going to be $15. North America Zone 2 Canada is $20. So you're looking at between $15 and $30 and various different rates on this chart over here, up to $45. But even using that $15 base, you're talking about basically paying $74 to get an expansion that adds some more content to the game, which means we're going to be talking about this, as usual, we're going to be talking about this both from a stance of, let's scroll down here, we see the bases, the pledge levels. We're going to be talking about this both from a stance as whether it's worth it to you, as well as whether this is the best price for you, whether you should get it later, the secondary market, any of that stuff. So before we get into that, $59 is the base pledge. $74 gives you the upgraded pledge, where you get a bunch of metal tokens plus the card sleeves, and those metal tokens are fun. My copy of the Reckoners is this version. It's the epic version, or whatever you want to call it. I think the deluxe version, not the epic version. It's the deluxe version with a bunch of metal tokens, and it does add a very premium feel to the game. Does it need it? Not at all. You can get away with the base pledge totally 100%. Is it nice and premium? It's nice and premium. And from there we have the Steelslayer epic pledge, where you basically get 5 pre-painted minis. This is one, again, the base game does have that option. I don't have that. They do have it as an add-on here, so we'll come to that. But for $89, you get everything from the deluxe edition, but additionally you get pre-painted miniatures. Again, we'll talk about what it's worth to you, as well as secondary market, all that. From there we start going to the all-in pledge levels, which is one of the good reasons to back this campaign, because you get access to a bunch of all-in pledge levels at a better price than you would otherwise. So from over here we have, to begin with, we have the Steelslayer all-in pledge, which is $129, and it gives you the Steelslayer pledge, as well as the base pledge, everything from the Reckoner's base, basically. Now, it's not a huge savings, but if you're comparing it to getting it off, Navu Games site directly at $74.99 for the Reckoner's base pledge, plus the $59 for the expansion, this is a saving of $4 or $5. I'll take it. Not the worst. Fine. Let's go from there. From there, we have the all-in deluxe edition, where you get both the deluxe options. And again, this would cost you, over here would be $99 for the deluxe edition, plus it would be another, and we're not even talking about shipping, $99 plus $74 would be $174 compared to $159. So that's already a decent bundling. The bundles here are really where you can save if you don't already have those expansions. And then from there, the Steelslayer 189 option is, it's $89 over here for the Steelslayer Epic, plus it would be $119, so it would be over $200 for that, and it's $189. So again, you can see how these different options, you start saving, $4, 10, 15, 20 bucks when you start doing the bundles of these more whatever, the deluxeified editions of the game. And it's worth noting that you can still get this game at retail. Over here you can see the Reckoners is $69.99 at retail if you're buying it from Card House or wherever, but that's just the base retail version. That does not come with anything extra or whatnot. It's purely the base version. So if you don't want the metal tokens, then perhaps you could look into getting the Steelslayer plain version, plus your add to your Card House order or whatnot. And there's, again, it's a little bit of a tough one to talk about because there's so many different options on the table, so I'm trying to cover them from a general view, but you'll get the general feel, hopefully, or whatnot. And so those are basically the pledge levels we have. Now, to begin with, the expansion becomes a very easy, let's talk about this. There's an all-in express option where if you're choosing any bundle, you can pay an extra $10 to get the Reckoner's base game now, which obviously will change the value proposition on the table, and you'll have to make the determination accordingly. Now, I will mention Navu Games, and we'll talk about this. Navu Games has pretty decent shipping. If you want to buy this on their website over here, it basically costs you $6 to ship it, which is a good price, and we're going to talk about that in terms of when we talk about what you should do or not do. So, to begin with, the game of Reckoners here, the base game of Reckoners, or the expansion, the expansion is going to be Kickstarter exclusive, and not exclusive, sorry. It's going to be not going to retail, which means it's available on Kickstarter, and it's going to be available directly on Navu Games' website. They talk about that over here somewhere. Where do they do this? Here. Why back? Exclusive content. The Reckoner Steelslayer will not be going to distribution or retail. It'll be available on their site and in select channel partners. Okay, and then secondly, save 20% off MSRP. That's mostly counted by shipping. Plus, they don't charge MSRP on their own websites. That's not really a factor there. And then join us as you make it. Support the publisher, which is great. The flip side of of that is you're supporting the publisher by buying it on their website as well, although there's pros and cons there. In terms of supporting the publisher, if you buy it on Kickstarter, Kickstarter takes 10%, but if you buy it from their website, they have to deal with stocking it, storing it, having it, just basically it's not a direct to order. Kickstarter is always easier from a stance of, hey, we have 2,000 people who want it, we'll print 2,000 copies. So that's the, supporting the publisher. Either way, it's a bit of a toss-up when you're buying it directly from the website versus Kickstarter. In terms of pricing, so let's go into a few things. As far as what it's worth to you, you have to make a personal determination. For this game, especially if you get the expansion, you're looking at spending anywhere between $129 plus shipping or $189 plus shipping. It's basically between $150 to $200 for a base game and expansion of what is basically Pandemic Plus. Do I like it? Yes, I do. I totally enjoy this game. I did not think I would enjoy it as much as I did, but maybe it's just because I'm coming off of watching The Boys and really enjoying it, but I am a huge fan of this game so far. But is it $150 good? That's a hard determination to make, and you're going to have to make that on a personal level. There is a lot of game here, and there's a lot of deluxified components. The price point makes sense for what they are giving you. At the same time, you do have to make a personal determination as to whether it's worth it for you. I mean, the game trays in this game alone, whenever you buy deluxified game trays separately, they'll cost you $30, $40, $50, and this game is chock full of a million different game trays holding everything together, plus, of course, the deluxified components, plus miniatures. There is a lot going on in this game, and I think the price point is very reasonable for the components you're getting, but you have to decide whether you need that much of a component fest or whatnot for what is basically a fun, light, cooperative dice chucker. Again, keep in mind, I'm saying this as someone who likes the game and would totally get the expansion and the base game and wants to own it all, but you do have to balance that in terms of your own buying decisions. In terms of the secondary market or whatnot, I think you're generally pretty safe here, and that's if you look at the price history on BoardGameGeek for the Reckoners, for the base game, and you scroll down to when they first came out and whatnot, it basically, though all those deluxified versions all held their value pretty decently for quite some time, and they will probably continue to do so with the expansion and whatnot. And that's for two reasons. Because in general, first of all, many people do not go to publishers' websites to buy expansions. Many people just don't. So when someone's looking for the Reckoner's Steelslayer down the road and it's not available at their local online game store, some people will go to the website, but many people will not head to Navigame's website. Many people will just go to BoardGameGeek, eBay, wherever it is, and buy a used copy that is doing a decent job holding its value, just like the base game did. And the second reason is print cycles. Print runs are a thing, and as soon as it's out of stock on the website for any reason, then suddenly your secondhand market is your only shot. I do believe that this expansion, like the base game before it, will do a decent job holding its value. Day one, initially, it'll probably hold its value pretty strongly, and then after that, it will still take some time for it to slowly devolve. But even now, if you scroll to even more recent sales, those deluxified versions of the Reckoners do a decent job holding its value, especially when you contrast it with being able to buy it directly from the website. Again, this is not one you're making a ton of money on, but it's one where you're able to get your initial investment back, initial spend or pledge level, whatnot. You might lose on shipping, but it does a decent job. This is a well-liked game. It's a 7.8, I believe, on BoardGameGeek. Let's see. It's a 7.8 on BoardGameGeek. That's nothing to sneeze at. Rank 1000, which is a little lower, but I think that's just because of the lower number of ratings. But overall, it's a great game. The opinions on this, if you look at their reviews, I mean, I think 3 Minute Board Games loved it. Tom Vassell loved it. Who else do we have? I loved it. And then there was also Actual loved it. There's a bunch of reviewers out there who really enjoyed this game. Yeah, overall, I think it's worth checking out from that stance alone. As far as what to do in terms of buying it from here or buying it from the publisher's website, I kind of recommend just getting it from the Kickstarter, because price-wise, you probably can save a few bucks by buying it on their website directly. Because of the cheaper shipping here, once you factor in that pledge level of $59, and you factor in how much it will cost on their website, so it's $59 here, it might be $59, $65 even. This initial base pledge of the Reckoners, when you compare it to the first Kickstarter, it was, here we go, it was $69 in the first Kickstarter and $74 here. So it's slightly more expensive, but overall still did a decent job of holding its value, and the cheaper shipping on the website will balance out. So you're probably looking at roughly the same or even a savings in buying it from their website compared to buying it here, but you're talking about getting it later. You're talking about no guarantee of that price point, no guarantee of print cycles, and at the end of the day, you're talking about a few bucks. I would probably, if you are getting this game, I think Kickstarter is the way to go, even though you might be spending a few dollars more, and that's only true for the expansion alone. If you're buying the all-in bundles, then Kickstarter is for sure the way to go. And lastly, before I close off on that, so I guess the should you back it on that is pretty much, it's a decent price on a great game one where you can wait and get it down the road from their website, but you're a victim to print cycles, or you can just get it now. I will note they did talk about upgrade packs and upgrade for the medals and the painted miniatures coming. They have not listed a price yet, so we can't cover that, but I will say this Stockpile Epic Edition is a great price. Okay, this Stockpile Epic Edition at $59 is a great price. The expansion's a good price. Crosstalk is generally not a loved game, so this is a good price. Don't get me wrong, it's a great price on the game, but it's only if you really want this. If you want this, it's a good time to get it. If you don't, well, check the ratings to look into it. But Stockpile is a great game, and this is a great price for that game. It's worth jumping into the Kickstarter alone to get your hands on the Stockpile Epic Edition at $59. And that is basically it. That is everything Reckoners. Great game, good price. Recommend checking it out, but obviously make a determination for yourself as to whether you're willing to spend between $150 to $200, unless of course you already have the base game, in which case it's less, to get all this stuff on the table here. Until next time, I am Alex Radcliffe from BoardGameCo. I hope you enjoyed. I hope you found this helpful in some way. I know I was a little all over the place in terms of pricing. It's just lots of different pledge levels because there's the base game, there's the expansion, and then each one of those has 3 different variations therein, which makes it a little bit more annoying and a little bit all over the place. So I hope the conclusion part of goodbye, basically the same price as getting it from the publisher, is a good enough conclusion. Oh yeah, and the bundles are a good price there. Either way, I am Alex Radcliffe from BoardGameCo, and I hope you have a good one.